Hi and welcome to the Reading Roads podcast, and it's a conjunction of the spheres this week as I'm joined not just by one co-host but by two co-hosts. Firstly, after being away for a whole one episode so far this year, it's OG co-host of the show, David. David, how far away from your wedding are we now?
We are... Oh shit, I should know that.
Exactly, that took way too long, and the date should be seared in your brain. That was a trick
Natasha has
question.
a full-on countdown as well, like going on the fridge. It's all written out and everything, and I've got it on my phone. Actually, I do have it on my phone. I can tell you the exact day.
You took too long.
No, it's 67 days.
Okay, 67 days.
67 days until the wedding.
I understand the countdown portion, but you should be able to tell us the actual day.
Oh no, I know the day is the 30th of April. That's the day. There you go. And when's the stag, Neil?
April Fool's Day.
Uh-oh.
Oh, is it? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's a great day, actually.
Like I say, you've got your passport, although there is a national rail strike on that day. So that's not... It's all caused problems for us.
Well, a rail strike and a passport. We're going to France.
Well, maybe. Maybe not.
I love that you guys travel countries like I travel states in the U.S.
We really do not. Going like half a mile down the road's enough for me. Literally going to the next town is difficult enough.
Yeah, David moans about coming to my town to see a film in the cinema.
That's way too far.
Yeah, and it's literally about 4 miles.
30-minute drive or something.
Not even that, man. It's like
Does it
22
take 30 minutes to go 4 miles?
Yeah, it's a bit more than 4 miles. It's about 10 to 12 miles, but yeah.
Okay.
But moving on, what we should do is the person who have been listening to talking, who's that guy? Well, for the second time, we are joined from across the pond by our new regular contributor from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Jose Lopez. How's it going, Jose?
It's going well. I'm excited. I'm glad to be here. I get to talk about movies. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a long time, ever since Neil created the podcast, because I knew eventually I'd squeeze my way into it. But yes, and I finally get to meet the other co-host.
Who's the best thing about it? Let's face it. I don't like that we're co-hosts, Jose. I feel like we should just be hosts.
Oh, yeah.
It should all be inclusive language. He's relegated us to co-hosts.
I've got some language for you, David.
Well, that was a lot of talking.
When you script it and when you edit it, then you can call yourself a host, David.
You know I don't script. Jose, have you scripted? Are you off the cuff?
Not once. Not once at all.
My man. See,
it's all up in the noggin, all up in my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing up in mine. But
if I had £1 for every or I have to cut out of David's editing, I could retire. I could retire already. I would be a multi-millionaire.
We need to monetize that. Create a video of just the ums, and then see how much viewing it could make.
There'll be some crazy bastard that will watch it. So anyway, moving on from utter babble as usual. On this week's episode, we are going to be reviewing Disney Plus's new British kinda superhero show, Extraordinary, Netflix's new spooktacular ghost hunting show, Lockwood & Co. And at the cinema, we're going to be talking M. Night Shyamalan's new thriller, Knock at the Cabin, and our first trip to the MCU this year in Ant-Man Quantumania, which we're not going to do any spoilers on today, but hopefully soon me and Jose will be delving into a full spoilery special quite soon. So no spoilers in the Ant-Man review today, but keep an eye out for our upcoming spoiler special on that one. For listeners, David is wearing a quite fetching blanket today.
I mean, I think it looks...
It's really warm and cozy.
I think it complements his shoulders very well.
And... So first up today, we're going to be talking Emma Moran's, and it's pronounced Moran, David. Yes, it's Moran, not like Moran, not like Dylan. And I know this because I listened to the writer Emma Moran on another podcast where she confirmed everyone's been pronouncing her name wrong. So we always get a bollocking for our Irish pronunciations, and she is Irish, and we've got it right. It's Emma Moran. So I think this episode we're going to be fine with our Irish listeners. And so in Disney's new superhero show, Extraordinary, it stars, and bollocks, the lead actress is Irish. Anyone want to take a guess at how you pronounce her name?
Oh, no. I looked at her name and I'm like,
Moran.
Nope.
Oh, no, it's an I. Is that an I?
I'm going to say Mary.
It's an I.
Mary Tyres.
Close.
Myrid.
Maraid.
Maraid.
Maraid Ties.
I was way off.
Either way, I still had a crush on her. She was a cutie. Yeah, no, the accent got me, so.
Can't go wrong with an Irish accent.
The Irish accent is a very attractive accent.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's not many accents that aren't very attractive. Especially when we don't have an accent. Do we have an accent? This is the best time to ask.
Oh, yes. Actually, what's crazy is your accents are very different from each other. So obviously, you grew up in different areas. As
Well,
I
not
think
by
so.
far.
I cannot hear a difference between mine and Neil's. Do you hear
No.
a difference?
Not at
See,
all.
that's fascinating. Accents are crazy.
Yes, I enjoy accents. That's probably one of the things I enjoyed most on cruise ships is hearing people from different areas.
And of course, yeah, have to mention we all worked for the same company at different times.
Yes.
David was a one and done kind of guy, but still.
I didn't want to be a one and done kind of guy. I wanted to at least get 3 or 4 contracts in.
I mean, does anyone really want to be one and done?
No.
I said they keep tricking you, and you keep coming back and coming back.
Life
and they keep
got in the
offering you.
way.
I understand. That's kind of why I finished. I made it to 2 years, and I figure I wanted at least 2 or 3 more contracts in there. But
I feel like there should be context to what we're saying here. We're just talking contracts with no...
time on cruise ships, yes.
I literally mentioned it, David. So we all worked for the same cruise company at one point.
Yeah, but how people don't know how long a contract is.
6 months per contract. I think I could
9 if you're really like crazy and want to do 9.
Oh man, I mean,
I did
that's
9
almost
twice.
lifer status right there. You're a
That's
manager
almost-
technically.
I will, yeah, that's one manager. Anyway, we're so off track already, so off the point. We're here to talk about Extraordinary. And starring Mairead Tyers, Sophia Oxham, Bilal Hasna, and Luke Rollison. And they're your kind of 4 main characters. And I would say they're all fairly unknown actors before the show. I mean, in the UK, I don't think we'd even really heard of any of them before.
Yes.
So I'm guessing you've not heard of any of these people before either, right, Jose?
None, but I believe like the father of the main actress, he seemed very familiar.
Yes, he's in My Hero.
Okay, that's another UK show.
He is in. Is he Father Ted? Is he in as well?
Arla Hanlon. Oh, guy on the phone. Yeah. It's Arla Hanlon. So also Derry Girls. We're going to mention Derry Girls to Jose later. That's going to go on his watch list. So,
excellent.
Yeah, then the basic premise of this show is we are in a world of superpowers where at the age of 18, you gain a superpower. However, there are some people who are much slower to get their powers, and as we find our main character Jen, she's now 25, and she still doesn't have a power. So, I mean, it's a great setup right away, yeah, being the only person in your family and group of friends who doesn't have a superpower. And for me, what is great about the show is it's not really a superhero show. That's more the background to the characters, and it's more a traditional British sitcom because it focuses on the lives and the relationships of our 4 main characters. We've got Jen, who her character arc for the series is she wants to have a power pretty much more than anything. And, she considers going to a clinic to get private treatment. However, she does work part-time, very part-time, at a fancy dress store, so it's unlikely she'll be able to afford it. Her best friend is Carrie and roommate, and she has a really cool power in that she can channel the dead. And the way this is handled perfectly encapsulates the tone of the show. In most people, the way the show works is most people's superpowers are really mundane. So, you think, oh, great, I can speak to the dead. How awesome would that be? What I could do with it. And instead, Carrie has to work as a legal assistant dealing with estate problems. Really boring shit. And it's not really a great, thrilling use of her talents. Her character art's kind of like people only ever wanted her around for her powers. And that's kind of that's quite a nice way that she's not really seen throughout the season. Sophia Oxham is superb, as are all casts. But the way her body language changes as she channels different spirits is amazing. She's really like a good young actress to keep an eye on. Carrie's boyfriend Cash, who lives with them, once again, great power on the surface in that he can turn back time. However, the caveat is he can turn it back about 4.5 minutes, which isn't really that useful.
He really underutilized that power.
Yeah,
yes.
There were so many situations where that power, where he could have just been like, just fucking turn back time.
I think the way he uses his power, he kind of, like you say, he's likeable to a point, but
yes,
the problem with him is he's a bit of a layabout. He's not, his character arc is he wants to start a vigilante gang as opposed to use his power and get a proper job, and I love the fact that, he's just directionless. The idea of setting up a vigilante gang to help escort women home safely at night is just a stupid idea from day one. I mean, you can already imagine.
And exclusively women.
Yeah, exclusively women.
Drunk women coming out the club. Oh, don't want to take advantage of anything there.
You know exactly how this is going to go if you haven't seen the show. And of course, last but not least, you have a character called Jizzlord. Yes,
which
Jizzlord,
I feel like is very much misdirecting. It's not exactly what you think.
No, definitely. Especially as there's another character in the show that we're going to mention a little bit. There'll be some minor spoilers because we need to obviously set up what the show's about. So, Jizzlord is a man who can shapeshift. However, he has been stuck as a cat for a period of time. What's funny is he's basically forgotten how to human, essentially. And Jizzlord is played by Luke Rollerson. And again, like Oxenham, he gives such a great physical performance. You know, I haven't seen a performance this good in so ages that's his movement and his actions are literally so cat-like throughout the show, you know, when he creeps up into the frame suddenly, where he kind of moves too close to people and he just doesn't know how basic things work. It's really, really well done.
I feel like his physicality comes with his actual biology. He's a pretty thin, lanky man who can do that, and his facial expressions are made perfectly. His eyes are pretty big. And I think that's probably why they even cast him, is he was able to just look like a feline, sort of.
Yeah, definitely. I think a part of, like you say, his physicality and the look of the guy was definitely kind of set up for that. I always say the show also features Derry Girl's Siobhan McSweeney, who plays Jen's mum. And honestly, this is probably one of the funniest shows I've seen since Derry Girls. I mean, there are multiple lines in each episode that have me laughing out loud with their vulgarness but also piercing wit. And as I said, this feels more like a British sitcom than a superhero show, and that just the superhero stuff's done as a backdrop. And every superhero show / movie follows such a definitive set of tropes. You know, they get a power, they discover having their power, they learn how their power works. With great power comes great responsibility. Usually you get a parallel villain arc at the same time. There's no villain in this show, which for me is great. It's just, you know, it's just the characters learning and evolving from what they are, which is great.
I don't know, the Flash guy was a bit of a dick.
Yeah, well, the Flash guy is a bit of a dick, David, let's be honest.
No, I mean, and also you could make a case for the main character being her own villain, getting in her own way.
Yeah, she's not the nicest, and as I say, as a series progresses, she gets called on her own bullshit a fair bit. You know, she's always, I want a power, I want to do this, and you see her friends are trying to help her, her family's trying to help her, but she keeps self-sabotaging a lot. You're kind of watching it going, no, Jen, don't do that. Oh, you idiot.
She pisses on a desk. You got to be whilst sober. You know.
No, I don't. Was she
sober? I'm pretty sure she was.
No, because I don't think they were. Because if you think about where they were coming from, they were.
Hadn't they been out drinking all day in that episode?
Oh,
anyway?
fair. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
fair enough. Yeah.
But thank you for making me question my memory. Because I'm like, you know, they were pretty coherent.
I will say with the characters, what I like how just rubbish a lot of the powers are. Like I say, there's a character called Gordon who we meet early on who can make anyone orgasm just by touching them, and yet
I think that's more than just.
It's not a great power. Like
I think that's a great power. I think what he does with it in the long run is perfect.
Yeah, he, again, that's what I like about the show is that even the smaller characters, they get arcs. They change from where they are at the start of the season to the end. I mean, I love Jen's boss, Ange, at the fancy dress shop, who's a small child who sounds like a 50-year-old woman from the East End of London. It's just brilliant. Oh, yes. You don't expect that voice to come out of that girl.
I actually wanted more from that character. Yeah, I think that would have been great to see more from her.
Yeah, she's only in it for like 3 scenes, really? Like
not a lot of scenes. Like, again, with shit powers on display, we can't not mention when Cash starts to try and get his group of vigilantes out. And, I mean, one of my favourites there, just a straight cut to Magnet Girl. Oh, look, it's working, and she's just got everything stuck to her face. And, of course, the character whose name I forget, but he can 3D print you anything in a few minutes. Unfortunately, it's from his ass.
Yes, and it has to be aerodynamic from what his words. Which I think makes sense.
He must be making so much money.
I hope so.
I don't know why he needs I don't know why he needs the vigilante job. Imagine just being able to print anything from your anus.
And
that could come in handy.
Relatively quickly, too. It looks like he can do it very fast in some scenes.
And he was very keen to do it at any given opportunity. So.
Yes.
Oh, no, who's the other guy? There's a guy who can phase through solid objects, but he has to be naked to do it.
Yes. I mean, I feel like there's ways around it, but... The fish guy, yes. I should have seen. We should have seen more of that guy. We should have seen him using more of his powers, like at a dinner restaurant. Yeah.
Shit, Aquaman. And that's what I like about the show. It's like the powers aren't, Jen's mum, her power is she can work technology with like a flick of a hand. But because she's old, she doesn't understand how technology works.
Yes.
So her power's essentially useless. It's just.
That was a wonderful twist on that idea. I think that was a great idea.
Jose, do you think the British humour in it translates quite well stateside? Because this is on Hulu, right, in the States?
Yes, this is on Hulu, and I have to say that I'm sure there's things that I had just go over my head where I didn't realize they were jokes. But I think overall, as an American, I enjoyed the show quite a bit because I think people are people, bad people are bad people. So overall, the major concepts I understood, but I could tell, there's definitely little things like little comments or references to other things in the UK. I was just like, I don't get it. So I just kept watching.
When you watched this, did you need subtitles for it? Because Jen's accent is quite full-on strong Irish.
Actually, yes, but I already put subtitles on for most shows. So
I do as well, man. I do as well.
I think it's just, but I did kind of think about that, honestly, because at first I'm like, yeah, I'm going to not be able to understand her. But it's like when you're reacting with an entire cast, I think for the most part you get it. But it's hard to pick up. Oh, I guess things with like primary school, the way that you call it primary school, and we call it like elementary school or grade school. We have different terms for stuff like that.
We call it, well, when I went, it was called secondary school, which was usually called like high school. What was it called when you went, David? Because David's you're like what? You're 30 now, aren't you? So
yeah, no, it's called secondary school. That's what
still
it is.
called secondary school.
Yeah. I don't know if it's changed to high school in some places. I think up north it's called high school.
I have to admit, reading the Harry Potter books and watching the movies, it adjusted me a little bit into what you guys call school.
Also, we should mention, we did ask for your comments on what you thought of Extraordinary if you've seen it, and we got a few shout-outs. So we got Dustin of the Rewatch Recap podcast said, Extraordinary is a fantastic series. It feels like a calmer Misfits, in my opinion. Remember Misfits?
Yeah, I remember
Did
Misfits.
you ever have... Misfits was good.
Comedy
It tailed off a bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The comedy, I hope this doesn't. It's pretty... British explicit comedy is pretty the same for each era.
I think that's why the show feels so fresh to a lot of viewers. Like, I think that's why it's done so well, is the writing in it. You're watching it and you're just like, this is how people talk. Like, this is actually, it's got that realism to it. And like the writer, I think it's literally she was finishing her degree at university when she wrote this show, apparently. And now it's straight boom, Disney Plus, and it's one of Disney Plus's first UK original productions. So like they're financing, local shows all around the world, which is great. That's why obviously Netflix have started doing that as well. Always been doing that. I was going to say also, friend of the pod, David, and semi-occasional guest, international best-selling crime author Charlie Gallagher said, he dropped us a comment and he said, Extraordinary is just kid normal for adults. It's brilliant though.
Fucking hell, it is just kid normal for adults.
You know what kid normal
is? The children's book.
Yeah, I have never read it. I don't know what it is because obviously, age difference.
It is explicit kids normal.
Okay,
like teenagers
tell people,
or like 20-year-olds.
David, tell us, me and Jose, what is kid normal?
It's the exact. It is the children's version of Extraordinary. That's the best way of explaining it.
I feel like the title kind of implies that kid normal.
So kids with superpowers, but not great superpowers.
And then there's the one that hasn't. There you go. I read this a long time ago with Takira when she was like 3 or 2 or something. It came out in like 5 years ago or something.
Okay, cool. Also, one other thing I have to mention in the show is the music. It's so well cut together, man, with the music. And there's some White Stripes in there, I caught on one episode. The biggest UK band of the minute, who I'd never heard of until I watched the show. And I was like, oh, who are this band? That's quite a catchy song. And then they'd won 2 Grammys the night before. Wet Leg. Have you heard of Wet Leg, David?
No, I have not, no. I don't want to know where they got the name from, either.
Well, it's literally the definition.
There's something you guys should know about me. Is the thing that I enjoy movies. I know lots about them, but music is not an area that I know very much of.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Jose.
David is also a music heathen.
I am right there with you. Neil loves his music to the point where if a show doesn't have a film or show doesn't have a song in it that he doesn't like, he will mention it. He'll knock it a point. If it hasn't got like Metallica in there or something somewhere.
Hey, Stranger Things, just saying. It wasn't all about Kate Bush that season. It was Metallica that helped as well.
Oh, wow.
But no, what I was going to say, in regards, and I think with music, well, as you've mentioned, as you've opened that floodgate, David, what I'm going to say is, you get to a certain age, like my age, and your age now probably, and you don't really listen to much new music. I find if you're into music, you kind of find the bands you got into when you were a teenager or in your early 20s. They're the bands you kind of keep following, and you're like, no, everything new is crap and rubbish, and I hate it. Except when I was watching this show, there was like so many new songs and bands I'd never heard of. So I was like, right, go to the Spotify playlist. I have heard of almost none of these bands. And like I said, there's a band called Wet Leg, and they're the biggest band ever from the Isle of Wight, which is a small island. Is it just off England somewhere, David? It's got to be, right?
South
I don't
of
know where
England.
the Isle of Wight is. South of England. And it's 2 girls, 2 guys, and it was essentially set up by the 2 girls when they recorded it. And they had 2 songs, and one's called Chaise Long. And it's everywhere. That song is just in everywhere. It's been in films. They used it as the opening music for the BAFTAs and took the lyrics off it this past weekend. Okay, who are this small band that I've not heard of? Oh, they won 2 Grammys. Oh, they played at the Brit Awards following week and won like a bunch of stuff. So yeah, they're massive. So
I'm going to
didn't discover
Spotify them now. Wet Leg.
Now, do you think that the show just happened to get them on time, or do you think that they knew that they were on the rise and they picked them up?
I would like to think that it was probably the writer of the show, because she is obviously much younger, that she was like, no, this is the kind of bands I want in the show. This is I don't actually know how it works. I always wonder, is it they edit the show, put it together, and then they go, right, here's the songs that you have access to, pick which one you like, and then they decide which one fits it. Or does someone go, no, I really like this song, I want it in the show, because this song is vital to the scene.
I always thought it was more that way around. Like, it was written with the song in thought. Because I watched an interview recently where Martin Scorsese was like, I wanted Cream in for that moment in Goodfellas, yeah. And they're like, I want Cream has to be in that spot. And he put it in the script. Like, write Cream down.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, James Gunn has been notoriously famous for doing
Guardians. 100%, man. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it's more the latter.
Yeah, but again, because it's a small, brand new show with a young, creative team behind it, I wondered if they have that same kind of pull. But then again, I'm saying, I don't know any of the bands, so it is all young, new bands. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I love the editing in one part. There's that song, if you notice it at the start of a couple of episodes, there'll be a blast of a song for a scene, then it'll cut out again, there'll be another little bit of a scene, and then the song will kick back in again. I was like, I haven't seen that in anything really, and it's not distracting, but it was so well done, because like you say, you don't notice it, but you're just going, it gives the show such pace. It's just, I've really enjoyed it, man. So we're all fans. We all loved the show, right?
Yeah.
However,
I'd say overall I was a fan. I think the romantic subplot was very poorly hinted at and then shoved in at the end. But otherwise, I think it was a really great show. Honestly, I can't wait for season 2.
And fortunately, great segue there. Season 2 has been announced, and they're filming it right now. So literally, they were basically waiting for season 1 to come out, see how well it did, and clearly it's done very well on Disney Plus worldwide. And they started filming literally about a day. Oh, sorry, I think they started filming about 2 weeks after the show came out on Disney Plus, the second series. So I can't wait. Season 2 is being filmed right now.
Did anybody feel like it was a mismarketed a little bit, the show?
As a superhero show.
Yeah, well, not just as a superhero show, but I felt like when you sent it to me, I thought immediately with the poster and the fact that it's on Disney, is that it's a kids show.
Right.
With how the words are written and the poster looks like it's a children's show. It's meant to look that way as well, I think, because it's meant to be a play on that sort of. But to the point where I saw a news article which the director or the creator reposted on Twitter, where it had gone into some magazine as what to watch for the children. and it was promoted.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that same thing popped up online. Someone recommended it.
So I don't know whether it was. And I did feel like it might have been They went too far down that route of making it trying to look like this typical teenage.
And that's probably the marketing department not knowing. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know if it's the marketing department not knowing, or it's the marketing department saying, "Fuck it, let's just go for it." Let's make it appeal to us. Because I think whoever watches that. No, do you know what? I think the fonts and the graphics of the show are bright. They are brash. They are attention grabbing when you look at them. But that very first scene of the show where Jen just absolutely verbal diarrhea all over the person who's interviewing her, because that is her thing. That gives you the tone of the show. I don't think any kid's going to watch that and then go, or sitting there with their parents, you're like 6 or 7 year old, and go, no, Timmy, we're not going to watch that.
Yeah, well, I wonder how many times that happened. How many times a couple of people sat down to watch the show thinking, oh, look, this looks like a nice children's show to watch?
I'll be honest, that's the same point of view I went into. Oh, this would be fun and lighthearted, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I like this show way better.
And there was a character called Jizzlord.
Yes. And you know what? Coming back to the marketing, I think the same thing happened to me with the show Invincible. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with it.
Yes, yeah. I love Invincible.
That first episode, I'll be honest, I was ready to just turn it off, but gladly I finished the first episode, and that's where I was like, I'm watching this entire show.
You get to the end and you're like, holy fuck.
Yes, that ending is really what saves me for the season, you know. It was just a great surprise, and I'm like, okay, now I really know what this show's about. And it delivered.
We're waiting for season 2 of that. It's due I know it's due on Amazon this year, but we don't know when quite yet. But it's,
with that teaser promo, it's like, oh, later this fall. I'm like, oh, great.
Oh, it's fall, so it's autumn for us.
Probably, yes. Because I feel like, what's the other one that's... There was another teaser for something else, and it's like, oh, it's in the summer. They always are pretty vague until it actually comes around.
A lot of the streaming sites do that, and Netflix aren't bad, but aren't too bad on it, because you're watching going, right, up next, here it is. I keep seeing Apple have got like a poster up for Killers of the Flower Moon at the minute. And I was like, that's not going to be until much later in the year, and yet you can add it to your next up to play now.
That's changed dates like 15 times already.
That was on our last year's films to watch this year list, and it didn't come out. Yeah.
That's a bad sign.
We mentioned, well, I mean, it's Scorsese, right? He can take as long as he wants.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And It's funny because the poster for that, getting completely off point briefly, as we do, the poster for it has got DiCaprio in it. But from what I remember hearing was, because of the overruns and because of COVID and all that, DiCaprio could no longer do the main role, so he took a smaller role in it, and Jesse Plemons took the main role in it. So surely Jesse Plemons should be in a poster, but they're like, oh no, it's Scorsese and DiCaprio, we got to put DiCaprio in it. So I was like, fuck you, give Jesse Plemons his due, man.
Well, it's not even noticed that Plemons is in the marketing.
No, and he's literally the lead actor.
Yeah.
No.
If that's the case.
Arseholes. Anyway, from arseholes and Apple to Netflix, who hopefully won't be arseholes by not cancelling the show I'm going to talk about. Because they have... We'll get onto that as well. And the next show is Lockwood & Co. And this is a new young adult ghost-busting show based on a series of books by Jonathan Stroud. And I thought I might actually have read some of them years ago. But nope, I'd read one of his other trilogies, which was called the Bartimaeus trilogy. And it was kind of like a younger, bit more adult sub-Harry Potter thing at the time. I think I literally remember reading the Harry Potter goes, and it says, if you like this, you might like this. And that's how I found these ones. And then this is a series of books the guy wrote after them. But no, I've not actually read any of these. But there are 5.5 books in the Lockwood & Co. series, so I imagine Netflix are hoping, as am I, that we get each book as a series and none of this one book and then it's cancelled shithousery. But as always, I digress. So this has been developed by Attack the Block's Joe Cornish, and it's a show set in an alternate, gothy 1980s England. And the first masterstroke of the show is, instead of explaining the world of the show and the world building in endless expository scenes, what Cornish does in the opening titles of the show, it's like all like spinning news headlines from over like 50 odd years.
Oh, this sounds like a basic version of Watchmen's intro.
Yeah.
Like Sherlock, like Sherlock Holmes, like in that sort.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
What we know from the title sequence is around the 1950s, ghosts began to proliferate around England, and they're dangerous and they come for you, and a ghost's touch can kill you. Then we get massive graphs of deaths going up through the decades, and you're like, holy shit, that's a bit too close to what the COVID things look like. Yeah. Like, you know, like the charts of like the deaths going up due to
I'll
ghosts.
Be honest, I think that those kind of things are not so subtle anymore. I think they're pretty...
it was obvious when you're watching it. Then you kind of find over the interceding decades, we finally discover how to fight back a little bit. And again, they use all the supernatural tropes from, Supernatural, circle of salt, lots of iron, shotgun can disperse a spirit if it's got salt in it and all that kind of stuff. But this show is not set in our 1980s, and it's like an alternate technology list. So because the whole country was focused on just not dying from ghosts, technology didn't develop, and it was referred to as the problem. And so all technology was focused on fighting ghosts. So meaning there's no smartphones, there's no internet, there's no there's no mobile phones. They have to still use telephone boxes.
Yeah.
Kind of the 1980s already, though.
That's
I
pretty.
suppose so.
That's pretty realistic as well, though, isn't it? Because don't you have technological booms in times of crisis, right? So like World War One,
Yeah.
massive technological boom. World War Two, again, massive technological boom. But it was all focused around that process of fighting the war effort. But then after the war effort, that technology that was used for the war was then developed into how you can use it for wider societies. And if that's not going to happen in the show, then all of a sudden, if you're constantly creating technology for one thing, so yeah, I think that's pretty realistic.
Is it just in the UK or is it across the entire world?
It's not hinted at. Like, it's just completely UK centric in the titles, and they don't mention anything overseas in it. So it's very centralised to just the UK in the show so far.
France just across the way is perfectly fine. 21st century living there.
All the Americans just sitting there, going, oh well, ghosts, tough shit.
Minding their own business until it affects us.
And what we learn from the opening titles as well is that younger people, ideally sort of younger to mid-aged teenagers, are really susceptible to feeling ghosts, and they kind of have different disciplines. So what you get is, the older you get, the more your talents fade and the more you're at danger. So it's truly a world where the young characters really are our only hope. And this leads us to our characters, and the show is based around a trio. You got young actress Ruby Stokes playing Lucy Carlyle, and fair play to her, she was one of the younger sisters on the first series of Bridgerton, David. I don't know which one, because I've not watched Bridgerton.
Oh, okay. As in one of the younger sisters, like the ones that are like bit part characters, not in there. Really. Yeah. Okay.
And she can sense ghosts. Her power is she's a listener, so she can walk in and kind of go, yeah, it's over there, which is kind of cool. Cameron Chapman, he plays Anthony Lockwood, and he's the young guy, and he's like the head of this new ghost busting agency. And there's loads of like these agencies all over London. There's like the big one, like the Microsoft of ghost busting agencies, which is called FITS, and they've kind of they've got the market on they've got all the cool tech, they've got all the best people, and these guys are a startup operation working out of a small house somewhere. Oh, wow. And Lockwood's power is he can see signs of ghost activities, so he calls them death glows. So he can walk in somewhere and see almost like a ghostly outline on the ground, so he can yep, someone died here. So which is cool. So he's kind of got his power, and I like that the powers are quite simply. She can hear them, he can see them. So and then they kind of combine it. And then you've got what's the actor's name? Where is he? You've got Ali Haji Hashmati as George Kareem, and he's research guy. Doesn't have any powers. He's just research guy. So he's got and of course no internet. He's got a shitload of books.
Is he young as well?
Yeah, they're all, I would say, I don't know how they're all supposed to be in the show, but I think they're all probably supposed to be around 16, 17 in the show.
Okay. Are there characters that are younger that have a stronger connection to their powers, or
exactly?
Years?
The younger you are, the better you are at your better your powers are. And there's a scene in a later episode where one of the older characters, not connected with their agency, he almost gets killed because he can't see a ghost creeping up on him, and they have to save him. So it's and he's like, don't tell anyone my powers are fading.
At what age is that happening?
I would say late teens, early 20s maybe. And
so we're the actors, we're all dead.
Oh, we're dead. We're all dead.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. No chance at all. And the first episode, kind of, you have a little intro that sets up Lucy's backstory because she's your main character, and then it pretty much, stuff happens, and then she's on her way to London where she ends up working with Lockwood and George. I really enjoyed this show, and for a 14 certificate show on Netflix, this had more effective jump scares in the first episode than many recent horror films. You see all The Nun or The Conjuring or those ones, and it's all quiet, loud jump noise. I'm scared. I hate horror films like that. I hate that formula. They do it so well in this one, and the ghost design reminds me of Ghostbusters in the best way. The show opens with them investigating a house and a ghost. Obviously they need to set out what the show is immediately. And you have a ghost attack in it, and it's quite scary in places, for a 14 rated show.
Nice.
And
what rated show?
14 is the thing on Netflix. Is the rating on?
I've never
UK
heard that rating before.
It's not. Well, it's Netflix's own rating, isn't it? It's a 14. If you look,
kids can watch it, but they need to be a certain age. That's
Surely,
interesting.
why wouldn't you just say it's a 15? That's an actual rating here.
Yeah, but Netflix create their own ratings, don't they?
I've never seen that. Have they?
In the
I've
US,
never
it's
seen that
PG-13, so they just split the difference between the UK and the US.
But don't you have? I remember, like for TV, you have TV 14, don't you? And then TV MA.
You know what? I never paid attention because I just make sure TV MA is my standard.
Oh, fair enough.
Mature
No, but
audiences. I was trying to work out what MA stands for.
Mature audiences, yes. I mean, I probably should know because my nephews, but they're like still 5 and 4 years old, so.
So you're
that's
like the only Marvel stuff they can see is Spider-Man at the minute.
According to my sister, yes.
Yeah, Spider-Man's the gateway drug to the
Right.
MCU stuff. So what I was going to say is this is not actually that much of a light-hearted show. It does take itself quite seriously, but the show's singular strength is...
Wow.
No, it doesn't need to, though, David. It's because the 3 main young actors are so good
I didn't say anything.
You did. You made that...
No, that was
Oh, no,
Jose.
that was me reacting.
Oh, that was
to
Jose.
the thing.
All right.
And it wasn't even
Blaming
negative.
me for things that aren't happening.
It's always
I
your
was
fault,
like,
David, always. Ruby Stokes, she looks like an even younger Florence Pugh. She literally looks like they've cloned Florence Pugh.
Oh yeah.
And like here's a Florence Pugh again. Here's like a backup Florence Pugh you need for in a couple of years. When we discuss Florence Pugh on the podcast, Jose, she is always referred to as the Pugh because she's
Pugh.
brilliant in everything she does.
Neil,
She is actually very good.
she looks
I've
nothing
enjoyed
like
everything.
Florence Pugh.
She does.
I'd say some from the
I
pictures
mean,
I'm looking
in the
at,
fact that they're
there's
both women and blonde,
Yes.
like, what?
I'm not just me. Other people have said this as well, David.
Okay.
Who I can't think of right now, but
we're not saying they're twins, but there's a
No.
vibe. There's
it's like if you look
Aura.
at Florence Pugh in certain stuff, she looks like a younger Emma Thompson. If you see young Emma Thompson, you're like, oh wait a minute. Honestly,
it's
you've got a
scary to
spare,
think
basically.
Emma Thompson's gotten old.
Ruby Stokes, Lucy
Oh, wait, am I
Carlisle.
looking at the right person?
Probably not, David.
Ruby
Stokes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the right person.
Perhaps you're just looking at the wrong picture.
Should-
Are you looking at the Bridgerton stuff from a couple of years ago?
No,
before she
I'm
did
looking
this show?
at the
Lockwood
photos from the show.
Okay, well, we're clearly going to have to put this up as a poll on Twitter, aren't we, with a
There you
face-to-face
go.
comparison.
Yes, perfect.
That's the only way to settle it. Put it out to the people.
You have to pick the right pictures to make the poll.
Of
work
course.
right.
He does that
Clearly
all the
rigged them.
time. He skews.
Hey, you just won the last poll, David. You won the last
And
poll,
you tried
David.
cheating by throwing in
Oh,
Guardians
you know what
1.
It's the
do you
jawline. It's definitely the jawline.
There you go. Jose agrees. 2-1. We win.
I'm seeing some of these. They definitely accentuate the jawline more.
Also, at some point, David will mention that I do have a love for Rebecca Ferguson when we talk about Mission Impossible later
You're
in the year.
obsessed.
Oh, okay. Yes. I'm going to have to be involved in that conversation.
There you go.
Yes.
Now, talking about the show again. So, yeah, what's great about Lucy Carlisle is she's given a great backstory and it nicely develops her arc throughout the series. Cameron Chapman, who plays Lockwood, it's a great performance because he's got the dangerous side and a dark secret, but we don't quite know what it is yet. And he's kind of got that bit of dashing charm. And there are many secrets set up in regards to his character throughout the show and his family background. And what I like is the series is so confident in hopefully being renewed. They're like, we don't need to tell you all of it in the first series. We can hint at a few, but we don't need to go there quite yet. And I did enjoy that. I would say as well, it's a tricky role to pull off because he needs to be a bit elusive and a bit of a dick, but also turn on the charm as he goes through. And what I would say is you can see a star in the making here with this guy. Cameron Chapman, I reckon 10 years down the line, if we need another new Batman by then, he's got that kind of... Yeah, I reckon this kid could do it. I think he's like 22, 23 at the minute.
That's a big compliment right there.
I think he was that good. It's just that kind of, dashing playboy role he's playing. I'm like, yeah, this guy could definitely do it.
I see.
And finally, George, he reminds me in appearance, David, and in his tone, of a young Richard Ayoade.
Okay. Yeah, I know Richard Ayoade. Yeah. IT Crowd.
Yeah, basically, you seen the IT Crowd, Jose? It's a classic British sitcom.
Yes. So he's slightly awkward, but still funny.
Yeah.
That's
He's
the guy,
with
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well, the research guy is really like him in it. I was watching it going, that's a massive compliment. You're a sarcastic research guy, and he has a very strict biscuit
He's
policy.
freaking brilliant. It's a wonder how he's not in more stuff. He went down the directing route at one point, didn't he? Because he did Submarine.
Yeah, he did Submarine.
Yeah,
which is
Submarine,
brilliant.
and then he sort of he hosts the Crystal Maze at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the IT Crowd was probably 15 years ago now, David.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand how he didn't sort
Actually
of
didn't want to.
transcend. Maybe he had to have break America, and then you've made it.
Well, he was in what was the film? He was in The Watch with Ben Stiller about the neighborhood watch and aliens, and it wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, that was not a great movie.
No.
I think perhaps if that's his experience of making a film in the States, he's probably like, okay, I'm going to go.
Didn't his
TV.
co-host? He was the love interest in Bridesmaids, and he got a little step in the
Chris,
the door there. Yes,
Chris. Yeah, he's been in loads of stuff. He's
Chris
there's
O'Brien,
a TV.
Is it O'Brien or
Chris
O'Dowd?
O'Dowd.
O'Dowd, thank
Chris
you.
O'Dowd.
Thank you. Yes.
There was an adaptation of Get Shorty as a TV series, and he was the lead in that, playing American for about 3-4 years. So yeah, that was a surprise, man.
He had a slightly better career off IT Crowd, didn't he?
I definitely think he has. He's perhaps not. I think he's probably much more well known in the States than Aoyori.
Definitely more well known, but still, I think under the radar, honestly.
So what I would say with this show is, while it has been billed as a procedural in some places. You know, they investigate a different case of the week, and usually I'm not a fan of those kind of shows. I like one where the story moves forward each week, and not it's just rinse, repeat, and it's the same stuff. But it's not to the show's detriment, because the larger arc of the season is always moving in the background of the show, and back and forth every episode. So it's not like, oh, they're investigating a ghost in this house this week. Oh, and they're investigating another ghost in a house this week. Okay, perhaps one's in the cemetery one week and one's in a house. But, you know, it's still better than that. It's still more stuff develops. Yeah, like I say, the show at its core is our trio investigator case. Learn something about the bigger mystery behind the show. I would say very early on, seeds were planted for later seasons. And I had a guess. All right, when I was watching this, I was like, right, the season 1 has to end with one of these two things. And it didn't do either of them. And I was like, okay, touche. That is a much better ending than I was expecting. But you have to give us season 2 now, you utter bastards. So go and watch it, guys. There is only 8 episodes.
Oh, I'd like to say something before we move on. I definitely want to watch this show, but I think I want to watch it even more now because of this character called the Golden Blade. I want to know more about that.
The Golden Blade. He doesn't turn up towards the end of the season, though. So if you're going into the first few, expected... Yeah. Well, it's not a spoiler because you don't know who he is or the context. But
I just like the name, and I'm like, okay, I got to find out what this is all about.
Yeah, the Golden Blade. Because everyone has to fight with swords in this, because ghosts don't like iron, so that's why you have swords.
Oh,
like, I watched it with my old man. He's like, well, what's a bloody sword going to do against a ghost? And I was like, that's what it's going to do. That's what I liked about the show. That's how well written it is. Is that every time you're about to question...
No.
David, you cannot call yourself the Golden Blade at your wedding.
Oh, there's a guy called Skull in it as well. You've got me looking at character names in it.
I mean, sometimes the character names they're earned, but sometimes they're not. So that's the part of watching the show.
What I will say is that the acting's what really makes this show work. The 3 main characters are so good in it, and you look at it going, well, all 3 of you are going to be superstars in the next 5 to 10 years. You're that, because a lot of the show is just them 3 in a room talking about stuff. But normally you'd be like, well, that's a bit boring. That's quite low budget, and you can kind of see the budget creaking at the scenes. There's a couple of bits where I was like, oh, there should be big, massive CGI here, and they've just put a black background to make it quite clever, or just hide the fact they haven't got a budget. But it's Netflix, and they've always got a budget.
Neil, I think you've pitched it to me.
Cool.
I think you've won me over. I tell you what, it's not me you got to win over, is it? It's Natasha.
No,
she wears the pants in the family.
Okay,
she controls the remote.
I'd actually like to eventually hear what her top-rated shows are to watch on Netflix.
It would be anything that includes serial killers and and literally any documentary to do with killing anything, and
so
she'll
lots
be
of
there.
Research for her.
Yeah. How to Murder Your New Husband.
Have you guys seen the television show You? Because
I have just started watching it.
I want to start watching it now. I think that would be a great.
Have you never watched it before? Right. Okay.
I need to start watching it.
I didn't fancy it at all. I was like, no, it looks a bit pants. I don't like the idea of it. I've just started watching it this past week because the 4th season has dropped, and it's got Charlotte Ritchie from Ghosts in it, who is awesome and everything. And I was like, okay, well, if she's in, I kind of have to watch it now. And then I was like, oh, but I can't really start season 4. I need to go back to season 1. And it's just about a guy who's a creepy stalker, but he's the lead, and somehow you relate with him because the people he deals with are even fucking worse.
Somehow you relate with him, you mean?
No, honestly.
Is it?
I
trust Jose's on this.
Well, I remember watching watching the reactions of the first season where all the women were like, "Oh, we love this main character," and people were like, he kills people, right?
Yeah,
it's like such a fun, ironic, like, oh yeah, it shows you. Yeah.
What makes me laugh is the actor in it as well, Penn Badgley. He looks like a younger, slightly more attractive version of Dennis from It's Always Sunny. And so I just always have the dodgy Dennis stuff from it. I was like, the implication.
Is it like the sexy serial killer vibe that he's got going on? Sort of like Dexter. Like Dexter, where everybody was like...
He monologues the whole way through the show. He was in a monologue, so it's very Dexter. If Dexter worked in a bookshop and stalked people.
I saw the trailer, and it pulls it off way better than it sounds. I think the premise is built upon way better than what you would think.
Okay.
That's the problem, is I'm watching the first series in a minute, and I'm like, I really like this character, but you're definitely going to die by the end of the season as I'm watching it. Because I'm only on season 1 at the minute. But yeah, okay, we'll add that to the list. That'll be going on there.
Yes, definitely.
Right, so getting back to finally finishing off Lockwood and Go. Shout-outs. We asked for shout-outs. We asked for your comments. And people have said on the internet to us, that is terrible. Well, we got a doctor.
They hit www.weneededroads.twitter.com.
The internet. Hey there, young children. Kids. I don't know. I can't even get that. Can't even get the old man Steve Buscemi thing right today, man. It's been a long day. Anyway, Dr. M at Dresden Doll, who is actually a surgeon, David. We have a surgeon who follows us on Twitter and listens to the pod. And I think she actually may be the biggest Sandman fan I've ever encountered online. Every post is pretty much about the Sandman. Oh. And she said, why does that Lockwood poster remind me of Harry Potter, in particular, Prisoner of Azkaban? And now I've seen it, I cannot unsee it. And the reason is, I looked at this. Well, the poster, right? She's holding... Ruby Stokes is holding up her sword, but the poster cuts it off. So what they've done is they've cropped her sword in the picture, and it looks like she's holding a wand. A little bit. And it's... So if you look at it,
I can see it. It's the lighting. It's how they've used the lighting. It's the green.
That's hilarious.
It's just 3 of them.
Yeah.
1 girl, 2 guys, in a non-sexual way.
I think Harry Potter is going to really influence that mindset for so much more longer.
It's the airbrush look to it as well. Like how it's all airbrushed. Yeah.
And our next comment is Hayley from Cowdenbeath, Scotland. Let's not annoy the Scottish David.
Oh,
no
yay,
bad accent.
Scotland. Yay. Sorry,
was
I meant to be excited by that.
I thought you was going to do a really bad Scottish accent, David. That's why I was concerned.
We're as far from Scotland as you can get from England, anyway.
Are you sure you pronounced your name correctly?
Hayley, yes.
Okay.
It's a regular name. It's not like a weird Scottish name.
Okay, it doesn't have too many vowels and whatnot? Or did
no,
I just
it's
piss
spelled...
someone off by asking
You have pissed off Scotland, Jose. You are on the list. Like, David can't go to Ireland now because he's on a list. And now you can't go to Scotland.
Oh.
But she said, I was really surprised by Lockwood and Co. I didn't know much about it going in. By the end of the first episode, I was hooked. I really hope they do a second season. We all do. Netflix, don't be dicks. Do not cancel this show because it's really good. And I'd like to see you actually finish the show for a change.
You know what it is? I've heard someone review the idea with Netflix canceling is they don't let casts and writers grow the characters. Because if you look at primetime television, a lot of times the first season of shows, they're very rough. Especially like The Office and Parks and Rec.
Oh, Parks and Rec is the standard, isn't it? It was terrible.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Netflix decides, oh, we don't like it, we'll just get rid of it. When they had plenty of shows, they could have just...
Look at Friends. Friends didn't hit its stride back in the day.
Yeah.
X-Files was another one.
Yeah, I suppose there's simcoms. Simcoms? What the fuck is a simcom?
A word you just invented?
Sitcoms. Aren't they? I suppose it's a little bit...
A little bit
different. I got there, and I think it's been a long day, man. It's... Yeah, well, I suppose with sitcoms it's a bit different because they got rid of blockbusters, didn't they? But rightfully so because it was shit. But would blockbusters have gone on to have become a lovable sitcom?
We'll never know.
Do you mean the video rental stores?
No, the show about them that Netflix made. It was kind of like a fuck you. It was terrible because you were like, oh, it's got Amy Santiago from Brooklyn, and it was bad. It was very bad. And folks, as we're making little changes to the pod here, we are having 3 of us on here. There is a new segment coming to We Need a Vote today. What has David been made to watch this week? What show that I would never watch in a million years? Usually, not always.
Yeah, I have to. That's how bad it was. I don't even know its name. It's not even on IMDb. That's how bad it is.
Is it about murder? You said it's probably going to be about
No, it was
murder.
about buying a home in Italy with Amanda Holden and Alan Carr.
Not A Place in the Sun.
Who are 2 people that Jose probably has no idea who they are.
Honestly, no. And if I go by names, it's going to be impossible to find out. But if I see their faces...
Amanda Holden and Alan Carr, yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone in the UK is going to know him, but they're definitely not people that have gone abroad. But it was called, I've got it now, though. I found it.
Right.
It was called The Italian Job.
Oh, my God.
The premise of this home improvement
Are
show...
you taking the piss, Dave? Sorry, let me...
I'm not taking the piss.
You not...
That was the name of the show. It was called The Italian Job.
Do you not remember, when we were working at our previous employer, well, you were, we made a show called The Italian Job? No, The Italian Way.
Oh, so close.
Yeah. It's when we were changing offices, #padlocked, and we were working from my house. This is when you came over to my house. We were sat here, where I am sat now, and we were going through all the footage from Italy. And the idea was it was supposed to be a cooking show / property show in Italy with a few of our clients. And it was a show that we made. Is the best thing I can say about it.
And this was during the first time we were evicted.
First time we were evicted. Okay. The first office.
I feel like this is a story for later that we need to talk about.
Anyway, it was called Amanda and Alan's Italian Job, and the premise of the show was, Neil, a bit better than
our show
that we created. So Amanda and Alan, they buy a house in Italy, in a little place in Sicily, I think, where they were selling houses for €1. Which was apparently a thing. So you could buy a house in Italy for €1, but you had to do it up. You had to renovate it and actually make it a livable property to bring. Basically, it was a scheme to bring tourism back into Italy.
I think I have heard of this, where it's like, from what our perspective, it's like you get a tax break, and they pay you to live there.
No, it was more of a way of trying to bring tourism back into the country through allowing Brits or whatever to buy it for £1 and then do it up.
Essentially, you get the house for free, but the deal is you've got to spend the money you would have spent on buying it on doing it up and making it livable.
In making it actually hospitable.
Well, what was so bad about this show, Dave? It just sounds like a standard format.
To be honest, it was all right. It was all right.
Well, there you go.
It weren't the worst. I mean, as far as just, garbage TV goes, like that, it was fine. I mean, Alan Carr is very hit or miss whether you like his comedy or not. But it was basically just masculinity jokes with him all the time. Whereas he's there with this massive... Alan Carr's the most camp comedian you're ever going to come across. So it's just basically masculinity jokes the entire time with him with a massive sledgehammer, not knowing how to wield it, basically not knowing how to use his equipment, which was basically the show. And then just going around Italy looking at beautiful sights and stuff. It was all right. It was nice. It was nice enough watching.
So that was what David was made to watch this week. That wasn't as bad as I was expecting, David.
It was all right. It was fine. It wasn't as bad as some of the other stuff has been. So it's a good start to the segment.
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
No.
Ever. It's on BBC iPlayer though, if you fancy it.
That's literally a recommendation, David. We have, next up, the new M. Night Shyamalan film, Knock at the Cabin, based on the great book of a slightly different name, The Cabin at the End of the World, by Paul Tremblay. Why they changed the name, I don't know. Perhaps it costs more money to have a longer title on a poster, which is probably the reason they did it. And the simple premise of the film is that a family is vacationing at a cabin in the woods when 4 strangers break in and hold them hostage, who demand that they kill one of their family members to avert the apocalypse. So again, it's M. Night on pretty familiar turf. Family, one location, being menaced by outside invaders. Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge star as Eric and Andrew, the couple who are visiting the cabin with their daughter Wen, played by Christine Kai. And on the other side, we have the invaders, led by Dave Bautista's Leonard, along with Nikki Amuka Bird as Sabrina, Abby Quinn as Adrienne, and Ron Weasley himself, Rupert Grint, as Redmond. Yes. And let's be honest, for months, we've been looking forward to this film, David, for one key reason, and that is we get to see Big Dave in acting mode.
He was wearing glasses.
Theory,
that's where you know.
Wearing glasses. Yeah. Whenever Bautista is softly spoken and wears glasses, we know we're going to get a good performance from him.
There was one, because you mentioned glasses, I have to interrupt because I thought there was one moment where it was almost too funny and out of place that I can't give anything away, but in the situation, he does things and then he struggles to put his glasses back on, and I'm like, do you really need to do that right now?
Does he Batista bomb anybody?
No, David.
With or without glasses?
But honestly, I'm going to talk about Dave Bautista a little bit here. Partially because he's a local to the Tampa area.
Nice.
Not always,
Is he
but
really?
he lives somewhat in the area. But I have to say, someone a while back posted on social media that Dave Bautista is probably the best actor coming out of wrestling. And people are like, "Oh, what about The Rock?" But I'm like, the best argument was The Rock does action. He has no nuance. And Dave Bautista, honestly, has really tried a lot to be different in a lot of his roles. Or if anything, actually just more soft-spoken, like you said. And
No,
I gotta respect that.
I 100% agree. There was an interview, I think I actually posted that myself. I was like, I think if you're going to say who is the best ex-wrestler, Cena is doing well. I think he's got good comedy chops as well as action chops, Cena, as Batista did when he first started. But Batista has been very clever in that he's gone for more character roles. He doesn't want to just be like... I think the first film I kind of saw him in where he wasn't standard big guy punching people was Hotel Artemis, which was a mid-budget film with Jodie Foster. And they almost said, like, Jodie Foster said, well, yeah, it's my film, but also no one's going to greenlight a film starring a 60-year-old woman. And she goes, but if we mention Batista's in it, they give us some money. And he was more... Yeah. And he was, the orderly in that. Obviously, he's got his action scenes, but... And I think probably the first one that really everyone said, holy shit, he can act, was his little short scene in Blade Runner 2049.
Yes.
And you're just watching that. And it's a shame he wasn't in it more. And in fact, the director was so impressed with him, they actually filmed a bit more material. And there's a short film on YouTube that's about 10, 12 minutes short, all about his character called, is it Sapper? Or Tapper? I forget his name now, but...
It might be Sapper.
Sapper, I think it's, yeah. And you're just watching it going, hey, if Denis Villeneuve, who's one of the best directors in the world at the minute, is picking you to be in his films. And of course, he then cast him in Dune. So again, hopefully he gets a bit more to do in Dune 2 later this year. And then, that brings us to Knock at the Cabin. I was going to say Cabin in the Woods.
Yes. Yeah, I keep mixing up the title myself.
And I think we've kind of hit on it. The fact that we know he's in acting mode because he's soft-spoken. He's wearing glasses, and just the sheer size of the man conveys the intention of violence, despite him and his companions saying, look, we're not going to hurt you, we're not going to kill you, one of you has to kill one of the other of the three of you yourselves.
Is there a reason
and if you don't,
why he's Beefcake?
Yeah. Sorry?
Is there a reason why he's Beefcake, or is it just...
No, there's no reason.
Without giving it's not really a spoiler, but you find out as the film goes on what the four interlopers' jobs were before they kind of take on this task. And he's a primary school teacher.
He's just an average man like the other four.
Super well built. He's just hit the gym.
There's a small he's a coach. So as a coach, there's times where it makes sense. He was probably a athlete himself in a prior life.
Okay.
But I mean, that's where you're just thinking about
you can make the backstory really up for him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they hint at stuff because I think the crux of this film is based around the central conceit that do we as the audience, just like Eric, Andrew and Wen, believe the words of the captors? Are they just crazy people who've taken them hostage? Or is there actually something to what they say? In that, if you don't kill one of yourselves, then you're going to cause the apocalypse. And we've been chosen to be here for this. And the film cleverly introduces ways to make us and the characters question if perhaps the captors are telling the truth.
Does it have to be suicidal? Sorry.
Well, no, you can't be self-inflicted. It has to be one towards the other. And I think that was a nice addition.
So the captors couldn't just be like, okay, I'm going to shoot this guy. Bang. Okay,
no,
good, correct. We've done it.
No, they had to choose willingly.
Yeah.
And that's the whole crux of the decision.
And then stuff happens where you start, as the audience, we start questioning, is there something to what he's saying?
From the trailers, that's like the plane falling out the sky, right? And doesn't that happen around them? Like around the cabin, they physically see the plane falling out the sky.
They see news reports of stuff happening worldwide, and it's whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, it's questioned whether or not the timing is accurate, or if it's just coincidental, or how connected they are to what's happening is questionable.
There's another theory around Rupert Grint's character that also might be the reason for the whole event happening as well.
I really need to see this film.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the premises are all done, but I feel like some characters are a little too. I think the word caricature is too strong.
There's not
but
a lot
it
of character to the invaders, is there?
I feel like Ben Aldridge's character, it's hard to know how accurate those feelings are. He's one of the fathers. He's Andrew. And I feel like they had to go in extremes with the two dads in terms of how they're reacting to, because I think that makes sense for the movie at the end. But while I was watching it, honestly, it just felt a little too obvious. Like, oh, one guy's acting more this way, one guy's acting more this way.
Yeah. One of them's going to start believing it a little bit, and one of them is totally, no, this is all bullshit. We need to escape and get out of here.
I feel like the execution wasn't to my liking as much as I would have wanted.
I did see some negative reviews, and they said that what it kind of does is it's too by the book, it's too obvious, there's not a lot of tension in it. But I don't mind that, because I think M. Night's got such a reputation for doing twists that I was quite happy that there was no real sort of major twist. As you get to a certain point in the film, it can go one of two ways, and the film picks which way it goes. And I would have been completely fine with it picking either way. I was like, it's not a twist, it's just following along narratively where the story needs to go, and I'm quite happy with that.
Does it follow where the book goes? Someone that's read
No,
the book?
I'm going to get into that without spoilers. And yeah, I actually, looking at my notes, Jose, that's exactly what you just said. The other followers of Big Dave don't really get that much to do. However, Rupert Grint has been developing a very nice career for himself post-Potter. And his casting here has to surely be down, because he's one of the leads in M. Night's Apple TV show, Servant, which is just in its final season now. He is one of the MVPs in that show. He's so good at it. Because again, hearing Rupert Grint do an American accent, like a Philadelphia accent, he nails it. For me, he nails it.
I think it's for the younger audience who, I mean, granted, that's kind of weird to say for a movie of this kind, because anyone over the age of 20, it's like we see him as the guy from Harry Potter, you know. But I feel like later on, as audiences watch this movie at home or down the years later, I think it makes sense. Just having a character like him.
I will say, if either you guys, because you've watched a bit of Servant, haven't you, David? But I think you checked out at some point.
Yeah, I stopped watching about season 3, end of season 3.
That was literally the last season. There's only 4 seasons.
Okay,
so you're up to date, really.
Okay, then I'm up to date.
Just watch the last few, man. It's good. It's such a bizarre show, Servant. But we'll get onto Servant sometime.
Rupert Grint is actually really good in his role. Don't want to give it anything away beyond that, because it's hard to explain what happens in the movie, because it's such a simple premise and there wasn't much to deviate from that premise.
No, and it doesn't need to, I think. And
no, it doesn't.
I think I did enjoy the film on my first watch. Like I said, I've been looking forward to seeing it. And I thought Knight's last film, Old, was just a massive pile of pan.
I liked Old. I didn't hate Old. What was wrong with it?
Everything. Didn't make sense. The acting was bad. It didn't make.
What didn't make sense about it? There's a beach where people go old. What's not to understand there? Time works differently at this beach. It's really quick. It's really quick, man. And then people have babies. People have incest babies or whatever they were. And I can't remember if it was an incest baby in the end.
Aren't you getting mixed up with Rick and Morty now?
Probably. The big
that is
planet
an incest
baby. Yeah.
Anyway, getting away from you and your old and incest babies, I'd clearly forgotten the ending of the book that I read years ago when I saw this. So afterwards, I quickly Googled. I was like, right, so how close was this to the end of the book? And the film takes a massive departure from the book. Like, massive. I would say the last third of the film is completely different in how the characters develop and where the story ends up. It's just... So M. Night has actually changed it. So although I enjoyed the film and I was happy with it, I wanted a book ending now. Now I remember what the book ending was. Because I would argue the book ending would make for an even more powerful ending. And I reckon they were just like, no, we definitely can't do that on screen. I'm like, but if you did, people will be talking about it for fucking years. Because it's a superb ending. It's very dark.
This reminds me of The Mist. Because I remember... That ending, I believe, was different from the book.
That is one of the bleakest films of all time.
Yeah,
there's
no scene sadder than The Mist. That's just,
the Road would like to argue with you.
That's the pinnacle, man.
If you want a happy-go-lucky Friday night double bill, watch The Road and The Mist back to back, and just don't have any guns nearby. Jesus,
I was genuinely surprised. Oh, that was gut wrenching. I gotta admit though, with this ending and the way, like I said, the character development, I wasn't as sad as I thought I should be.
One thing it was nice to see, that a gay couple as the lead in a big studio thriller, and their characters aren't defined by being gay. They're just two dads.
Yeah.
And it's rare you get that in a big studio film. And it's good. That's what you want, you know. No one, and like, there's even a bit where Batista's character says to them, when Leonard says, because he says, "Well, you've picked us because," and he goes, "No, actually, we didn't know you were a same-sex family when we were chosen.
We were just here.
You are who you were chosen." And so I like the fact that their roles were defined by their characters and not sexuality, which was nice. So Now I think M. Night has proved a very Marmite director in a few decades, and after the kicking that Old got critically and commercially, David. Knock at the Cabin actually has been a massive success for him. It knocked Avatar 2 off the top finally, and it only cost 20 million because again, a bunch of people talking in one location, and it's made almost 50 million worldwide already, and it was the number one film for about 2 weeks in the States. So it's done very well.
What's everybody's ranking of M. Night films? Give me a top three M. Night films.
Unbreakable is my number one, honestly. Although I have to get a list of his movies because I feel like there's some movies that you just don't know are M. Night Shyamalan movies.
That's because I took his name off him to get him released in the last couple of years. I would go Sixth Sense, this, and then The Village.
Yeah, so I go Sixth Sense, Signs, and then The Village probably, or Unbreakable. They're both pretty good. Split was good too.
I don't like that. It's bizarre. I don't like Unbreakable. I watched it years ago and thought not much of it. Then I rewatched it because everyone was going on about how great it was, and I was like, no, my original.
Did you not like Signs?
No.
Oh,
I liked Signs. Signs was good.
I'll be honest.
The ending was a bit pants, but
yeah, I have to say, Unbreakable. It's more of a preference, but I like it better than Sixth Sense. And then Split is actually number 3.
Okay.
But I have to say, another guilty pleasure is Lady in the Water. Another movie where I think it could have been better. The overall ideas were there, but the execution just didn't really ring for me.
Do you know what I think M. Night's problem is, right? He's a great director. He's not a very good writer. So when he adapts other people's material, he does a really good job of it. When he gets given free rein to do what he wants, you get Lady in the Water. You get... do you know what? Actually, I was going to say The Happening. I didn't mind The Happening.
You didn't mind it, but is it good?
No. It just reminded me of the Radiohead video for Just, if they expanded it into like a full feature-length film and then said trees are bad and want to kill us all.
Yeah, I've just seen that he wrote Devil. Do you remember that? He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. The one about the lift, where one of them.
Someone else directed it.
Yeah, and that was terrible. So and that was just pure writing. Maybe you want to reinforce your point.
But we have, to round off Knock at the Cabin, we have some shout-outs and listener comments. So, one of our favourite pods, Cage Fighting Pod. Yes, Jose, that is a Nicolas Cage fan pod. There are a lot of them out there. They're not like an MMA pod. No, it's cage fighting. And they said, never in a million years did I expect Batista to be the best wrestler turned actor, yet here we are. The film is good, but Dave is excellent, and he's showing he's got a lot more than just his big boy muscles. Our friends over at Seismic Cinema...
Sorry, with Dave, to go back to Dave Bautista's turned actor, there's not actually that many films that actors turns wrestlers have done. There's not that many of them, really, is there?
No.
Oh, you'd be surprised. It just
they weren't very good.
WWE have their own production company, so there's a bunch that have just done it.
Do not count those films, David. But they're not proper films.
Still actors, still films.
I mean, if you think about it, Hulk Hogan had his attempts.
Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando,
Roddy Piper. Yeah,
Piper.
Actually, you know what?
Piper was probably the guy actually because of They Live and John Carpenter.
Yes, he had that good movie.
We had two. He had Hell Comes to Frogtown as well.
But I gotta say, Batista really, I gotta respect the fact that he's putting in the effort to get better every time. Yeah. And honestly, it is kind of interesting to see such a large man be soft. But I think that really is good about subverting expectations. We
forgot him in Knives Out 2 as well, Glass Onion.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
I feel like with Batista, he's probably the only one that has properly lost that
stigma of being a wrestler.
Yeah, lost the stigma of being a wrestler. Yeah,
The Rock is just the new Arnie, isn't he? He's playing The Rock.
The Rock's your Hollywood. He's your money.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to go off who's the biggest actor that's turned, I mean, The Rock's one of the biggest money making actors in Hollywood at the moment.
All time.
Period. Yeah.
So,
But also, I want to go back to this Nicolas Cage thing. Have you guys seen The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
Yes, loved it.
I need to watch it.
It is not
Also
what I
because
thought. But him and Pedro Pascal in a buddy movie, yes.
Yes. I think I
Amazing.
saw the one scene where he admits that his favorite movie is, or second favorite movie is Paddington.
Paddington 2.
And that's just Paddington 2.
it is a
yeah.
good film.
So-
like,
It's
let's,
fantastic.
Yes, I've seen some arguments, and now I have to watch 2 movies because Paddington 2 is now on my list.
And to round off, our final comment is from Seismic Cinema, and they said, literally just watched Knock at the Cabin, went into it not knowing a thing about it and really enjoyed it. Not what I was expecting at all. Thought the acting was pretty solid, but Batista was a standout performance. So there you go. Everyone loves Big Dave with glasses, acting Big Dave with glasses. So, as we've mentioned, if you've enjoyed the movie and you've seen it, go and see the film, then seek out the Paul Tremblay's original book so you can compare the 2 wildly different endings.
Interesting. Yeah, now I'm curious.
is the
Might
book a
just
fat?
read
What we talking? What we talking? Tell me.
No,
tell me when. Tell me
if I
when.
got it,
Tell me when.
For
Neil.
those who can't see, he's starting his hand big and going
Yeah,
smaller.
you're not telling me when, Neil. Come on.
I'm looking in my bookshelf and it's in the cupboard because I've read it a few years back. You
I
could,
guess the question would be, Audible, how long do I have to listen?
that's heresy for me. I will never listen to a book on tape. I'll always just read it.
You should never discount Audible.
No, I won't. But
Potential sponsor for a future podcast.
and if
I'm
Audible
kidding.
would like to sponsor us, then we are more than open to.
I'm not going to listen to you, but
But right, so moving on to our final film of the day, and it is our first trip back to the MCU this year, and the film to kick off Phase 5, leading us up to 2 new Avengers films, Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty. And I think, as we've speculated here before, I think these are going to be 2 completely different Avengers stories. I don't see Secret Wars going into Kang Dynasty like Infinity War went into Endgame. I think these are going to be 2 completely different ones that go off at the same time. This is the film, really, that officially launches Jonathan Majors' Kang into the MCU. You know, despite already being in Loki as He Who Remains. Yeah, so our setup is pretty simple. Post-Endgame, Scott Lang has written his book, Look Out for the Little Guy, which will be an actual book you can buy in September.
Yes, I'm actually wanting to buy that book because I want to see if it's completely in
It's
character.
got to be
or
completely
if
in
it's
character. So yeah, you can
Oh,
buy
yeah.
Ant-Man's autobiography, David. Are you going to buy it?
no,
Yeah,
I
I did
will
think
not, Neil.
Don't worry, I will buy it for
Actually,
everyone.
then again,
Just
if there was
read it
any,
aloud.
actually, to be fair, if there was any MCU character whose autobiography you'd be interested in reading,
Yeah.
it would probably be Ant-Man's.
It would probably be Ant-Man, wouldn't it? Yeah.
They don't miss a beat, do they, to make money? Good old Disney.
Hey, mate,
No, they don't.
I reckon we are only months away from the actual Captain America Broadway show that they teased in Hawkeye.
Oh man, I knew immediately that was going to be a real thing.
Definitely going to be a real thing. We said this years ago on when we first started the pod, when we were doing an MCU bit, and we said at some point Marvel are going to look at like theatres and go, right, so all our properties are now going to be theatre shows and musicals, and it'll just be Broadway will just be Marvel way. And we joke now, but that,
Do you know,
that
like
will happen.
how Disney is doing that thing at the moment, where they're taking live action versions of their famous cartoons?
They're making
the
live
best
action versions
of the famous
animated.
animations. That's what I'm trying to say. I feel like in
The other way
like
round.
20 years' time, someone at Disney is going to go, you know what we could do? We could make animated versions of of all our Marvel shows.
They have for a lot of them though already, man. To be fair.
They have
Yeah,
cartoon shows.
And they're just
There's
going
been
to
a
do it
lot. They're,
again.
they're very high regarded because we got X-Men '97 season 2.
And funny enough, the critics actually enjoy the DC universe
Animated
over
stuff more, yeah.
Marvel, the animated. But no, yes. Where were we?
Ant-Man. So yeah, in
Trigger.
Ant-Man Quantumania, Scott is happily walking around collecting all the plaudits of saving the world, as you rightly would. However, his family are kind of dicks to him. They're like, yeah, but what are you going to do now? And he's like, well, I did save the world, like, just, you know, literally save the world. And his teenage daughter, Cassie, is being obvious teenage daughter. She's now played by freakish Catherine Newton. And, you know, she's embarrassed by him and she keeps getting in trouble. And would you, before you know it, David, would you know she's built a science MacGuffin, which is going to suck her and her whole family into the quantum realm. And, of course,
Science
it would have been
MacGuffin.
handy if Michelle Pfeiffer's Janet Van Dyne, who, you know, had spent 30 years between the last couple of films in the fucking quantum realm, actually mentioned, oh, that's quite dangerous, perhaps you shouldn't do that. But no, she clearly didn't bother mentioning that at the start of the film.
Actually, she didn't know about it either.
No.
It was a secret project.
So, wait, I'm already gathering that this is one of those films where just poor communication leads to the plot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one of the frustrations I have with the movie.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but it's definitely not easy to love.
Yeah, if she just chatted to her husband, maybe catch up on what happened in those 30 years you're away. Yeah, Michael Douglas's Hank, has been working with Cassie on building the MacGuffin. And the idea is this machine they're building could potentially map multiverses. And from there, they all get sucked in there. They get split up into two groups. And essentially, you're in the quantum realm for the rest of the film. But
yes,
I will give some credit to director Peyton Reed here, because the film's backgrounds do look amazing, if a little volumely at the time. We all familiar with what the volume is?
No, tell me what you mean.
So the volume is the kind of stage that Disney developed for The Mandalorian. So instead of green screen...
Oh, I know, yeah, I know what you mean.
I'll be honest, I feel like it looked more green screen at times. It really gave me the prequel Star Wars era feel,
Yeah. Are you on about where it renders where you go? So the camera goes one way and the screen will render where...
I don't know the whole technological thing, but I think the idea of the volume is you're acting in front of video screens portraying the backgrounds.
Yes.
So it's actually they're actually reacting to the stuff. They're not like green screen with nothing. They're actually seeing the backgrounds and reacting to it. The thing is, you always just notice the problem with it, especially in some of the seasons of Mandalorian and some of the Disney Plus shows, all they do is just have a little, like a shrub or something in the front of frame just to give it a bit of depth, and you're just like, okay, clearly there's nothing there. Obi-Wan was the worst, absolute worst version of that. But yeah, so we're in the quantum zone and everyone gets split up and then they need to find each other to beat the bad guy and try and get home. That's essentially the plot of the film. So I'm not going to get into any more plot-specific spoilers. And we're going to get more into what we thought about the film. So overall, for me, I thought it was perfectly fine. It's definitely not top tier. And weirdly, it doesn't feel much like an Ant-Man film in many cases. Because after the brief intro, it feels like we're in a weird kind of Guardians of the Galaxy / Thor Ragnarok Star Wars ripoff. It also means you don't get any Bobby Cannavale or Judy Greer. Always put Judy Greer in your films. So you don't get any of like Cass's actual parents. Sorry, not actual parents, mum and stepdad from the first few. But the biggest crime this film makes, David, is there is no Michael Pena's Lewis, whose recaps of the previous films...
He's not in it at all.
He's not in it at all.
Like, no mention of him, like, he's just wiped from existence. Like, Thanos never clicked him back.
No, apparently so. He's probably still recapping it somewhere. Just no mention of it at all, mate. And, come on, he's one of the highlights of the first two films. When you think of Ant-Man, that's the scene most people think of first, is Lewis's recaps. And he's seriously telling me we couldn't have a post-credits scene at the very end of the film where it's Lewis recounting the events of the film we've just seen that he wasn't there for. But, well, they could have gone even one step further, right? You could have had him recap the events of the film that he wasn't there for and get them completely wrong. That stuff writes itself. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? I think a lot of the greatness of the character was actually from the first director that I couldn't finish the original Ant-Man, and that's
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
I think that is really a testament to just how well Edgar Wright can put together a movie. And I think in the second movie they did it okay, but it wasn't quite the same as the first movie.
Well, Edgar Wright didn't direct the first one, did he? He walked away.
No, but didn't he help write? He has a writing credit, doesn't he?
Okay, so yeah, I can see that. I
feel like that is one of the few spots that you could say Edgar Wright created that. At least to me. I don't know.
So like I said, I like the film. I did have a few problems with it. So without spoilers, I'm going to work my way through my pros and cons. Pros. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. His comic timing and reaction shots are priceless. And whatever Faustian deal he struck to remain young forever, good God, man.
Sexiest man alive, wasn't he? Like 2 years ago.
Catherine Newton is good as his daughter Cassie, and they really played the father dynamic daughter well. Scott is willing to sacrifice everything to save his daughter. So, they both play that nicely. But the movie's highlight is, as we all expected, Kang! Jonathan Majors Kang.
He did a really great
He's
job.
a bad dude. However, as we know, there are going to be many, many more different versions of Kangs coming over the next few years. I almost think the problem with this film is it almost feels a bit like Infinity War, but not done as well. Infinity War was kind of like Thanos' origin story. So we kind of learned who he was and why he did what he did. And I feel like this is trying to do that with Kang, but it doesn't really give us enough answers. And, it needed to set up more who Kang is for future installments. And we don't really get enough backstory from him than a simple explanation of who he is, why he's where he is, and how he got there. And I thought his introduction into the film was great, but we needed a lot more time spent on it. I would have quite happily had this be Kang 1 as a part. That's a terrible name for a film, but the first Kang. There you go, that's better. The first Kang, and then tie it in with the Ant-Man stuff. Because Ant-Man, if you're going to get some Avengers to fight a bad guy, you would go for Spider-Man, you go for the Hulk, you go for Captain America, you go for Thor. Ant-Man would be at the bottom of your fucking list. He'd be there like next to I don't know, all the side characters from all the other films. He's not. He's got 3 films of his own now, but I wouldn't say he's like your main kind of guy.
Not A tier.
No, he's not A tier.
What? Sorry, I'm raising my hand, man. The raising the hand. That's
Yes,
what that
I saw
means.
that.
It means I want to speak. What I read on the few reviews that I've read on Kang, like everyone's been pretty much amazing performance. Kang's the best part of it. But within, again, back to the writing element of the film, is there an element of Deus Ex Machina where it comes to his ending?
You know what?
It's going to be with Kang, isn't it? Because there's so many different versions of Kang. However the film ends, there's going to be more versions of Kang.
Yes. I think what he's looking for is an answer to... obviously, now we're trying not to spoil anything, but the way that things end, it definitely rides the border on that. Like, I feel like I knew ahead of time what was potentially going to happen. Yeah, I didn't know how, but I feel like I wasn't surprised by how it kind of came around. I just was expecting it to be slightly different.
I think,
but no, I don't think it's a Deus Ex Machina type.
I think you've both hit the nail on the head there. The writing is the film's major problem. Like I said,
I feel like there was a lot of underutilized characters. Reasonings.
We're going to get into my cons in a minute, and we'll begin on it. I've got a few more things to be positive on though, and it is great to have Michelle Pfeiffer back. Her Janet Van Dyne, when she cropped up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, she was basically there for a cameo at the end. In this film, she actually gets stuff to do, and you forget, oh yeah, it's Michelle Pfeiffer. She's really fucking good in everything as well. And yet she just stopped getting cast in films for years because she's over 60. And yet I think she's made the same deal as Paul Rudd did back in the day. Because again, she looks fantastic in this film. So again, please put Michelle Pfeiffer in more films because she was always superb in everything. She's still superb in everything because apparently once a woman gets over a certain age, she can't act anymore either, apparently. And that's a bunch of crap because, when blokes get older in films, they're more distinguished. And apparently no one likes seeing old ladies on film. I'm sorry, if you look like Michelle Pfeiffer, you keep putting her in everything, still. She was superb in it. She was really good. The fact she got stuff to do, she has action scenes, David. She gets to kick ass in it. And you're just like, obviously it's stunt woman, but hey.
With the actress is getting older, like Meryl Streep, she's just, if she does a movie, she's getting an Oscar nom that year. Like whatever she does, just,
Well, there's certain actresses who kind of have that thing, don't they? But I will say, there is some great world building in the quantum realm. Like, they have a thing where buildings are actually alive, which is kind of a cool thing.
Like sentient or...
Sentient buildings, yeah, which is cool. And the imagery is really stunning, but the plot doesn't really give us time to appreciate or care about this realm. And here are the cons. It feels very little like an Ant-Man film. Bar the intro. Once they're sucked off into the quantum realm, bad choice of words, it feels more like a mix of Star Wars and Ragnarok, but without the visual flair and the humour of Waititi's direction. Say what you want, David, about Love and Thunder, but Ragnarok was fucking brilliant.
Yes.
David hates Love and Thunder.
No, Ragnarok was brilliant. Love and Thunder was utter shite. Utter...
David, as you say regularly, calm your tits. Now... For me, there are so many plot similarities, though, between this and Ragnarok. So when they get to, the quantum realm, think about it. There's all these refugees from other planets, and there's all these other new characters.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a copy and paste job. It's like you asked ChatGPT, write me a Marvel film. And they went, okay, we're going to take this bit from Ragnarok. Right, here's a bunch of people from other planets. But we don't need to know anything about them because we don't really care about them. And the Quantum Realm characters, I mean, you've probably got two main characters there. You've got one played by Katie O'Brien, who is called... Can't see her name, didn't even bother writing it down, because I couldn't remember it. But she's like, I don't know, tattoo... She's got loads of, like, tattoo girls or something.
You know what's funny is I wanted to know more, but the thing is like, because they didn't develop her, it reminded me of the female character from the Suicide Squad that died in the first scene. You know, with the helicopter?
Yeah. Oh,
it really reminded me of, like, I don't see much difference because I don't learn about her that much.
I would say rebellion character. Resistance warrior. Is that a character's name?
But in the Suicide Squad, obviously, we know that's what that character's fate was. I'm not saying it was what happened with her.
But
yeah, and it happens across a lot of the characters that we've come across that, like, you want to know more about these characters.
Well, you don't know anything about a character. You don't know if she's got any powers or she's just a woman who likes fighting with, like, cool tattoos and loads of different coloured skin. That's it. There's no character development. And the fact we can't remember a character's name, at least we've got Chidi from The Good Place. You've got William Jackson Harper. And he was probably the best new character in it.
Yes.
His character is, again, I haven't got his character's name written down. Can't remember his name. Don't know it. But, and this is the issue, right? The characters are so disparate and underwritten. You don't know the character names. You don't even know what their powers are. Oh, but wait, Chidi's a telepath, which is good. He gets a great scene with Paul Rudd where he's like, stop thinking that. No, stop thinking that. He's like, but and again, that's just on Paul Rudd's reactions that makes that funny. Special shout out, you get David Dasmachian's CGI creation. There was a CGI character, David, called Veb, who is hilarious and gets probably all the best lines of the film. And I'm watching this thinking, this is kind of like Korg. You know, it's the same kind of thing, you know. This is what I mean. With the Ragnarok thing, you've got a character, gets all the good lines. Whenever he says something, everyone laughs. And he's called Veb. Veb was great, and like I said, most of the film's big laughs from my screening were from him. And then David, he's in the trailer, so is he in the trailer? If not, it's a minor spoiler. MODOK.
Yeah.
We have to talk about MODOK.
MODOK is in this film, and I think it's an interesting character to add. And I've heard discussions saying that he should have been the real villain because of how it was, set up, instead of having Kang show up this early.
My problem with MODOK is he's essentially a giant head with baby arms and legs. And, well, we won't mention his origins in this review, because I happen to know very little about MODOK going in. Yet one woman in the audience kept collapsing in fits of hysterics whenever he appeared on screen. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's not that funny, love. That's what I wanted to say. Because every time he appeared on screen, she was like, ah! I was like, he looks ridiculous.
I think the scenes that he had with Paul Rudd was pretty good. And like I said, Paul Rudd's character, it never really strayed from what he's done before. But I think the setting of where they were really made it difficult for this to be an Ant-Man movie, like Neil said.
I think the funny thing with MODOK is he looks kind of goofy and really shitty. David sent me a TikTok clip of it earlier and went, is it supposed to look this bad? I was like, I think so.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine told me they saw the show, that's the Claymation show, with Patton Oswalt as the voice. And he says they're very similar. So either they're copying off the show or the character is meant to be that way.
I think the character's meant to be that way. I don't think when the rest of the film looks good, that character looks that shit.
When I sent you that TikTok, it wasn't the character looking bad or the special effects or anything like that I was commenting on. Although the character did look pretty shit. It was generally just the scenario and the line.
Scene.
Yeah, just
the line.
Just the whole scene.
That's a spoiler, that line, so we'll keep away from that.
That is really bad, though. I was not a fan of that scenario.
But look, here's the thing. I think he's supposed to be laughable. But here's my question. If you're Kang and you're supposed to be this all-powerful, super massive, OP bad guy, why the fuck have you got a goofy henchman like
MODOK around,
who is just utterly shit and useless at his job? Remember Angeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne?
Oh,
who's supposed to be Scott's girlfriend? Because the film doesn't. She has so little to do in the film.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Shouldn't it have just been
Well, now it's just Ant-Man and Quantumania.
I swear it's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
I've seen it named different places in different places. Someone said Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Yeah.
Ours just says Ant-Man Quantumania. But yeah, you could have removed that character and it would have made not a lick of difference to the film. Like, well, maybe one scene.
Well, one scene.
One scene. She had one job
scene.
in this film, David. She had one job to do. And let alone the film doesn't even remember they're a couple. Because I was thinking going, wait, they're supposed to be a couple, right? There's literally...
Has that one scene got anything to do with ovulating?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Weird.
That was my guess, that she might have gotten pregnant.
Actually,
as
technically,
the one thing...
two scenes where she's important, but that's about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
they could have figured that other one out without her.
Yeah, and to be honest, the way that it ended with that situation, I was just like, they kind of just skimmed right over it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's supposed to make sense, but I'm just like, I wasn't satisfied.
She's so badly written, right? They, like I say, they forget they're supposed to be a couple because there's literally nothing romantic. It's almost like the two of them had an argument before they filmed all the scenes because they're angry at each other all the time. And
I'm desperately worried by there's a lot of it's badly written, and the writer Jeff Loveness is the same guy that's doing Avengers Kang Dynasty.
I think what it is not every bit of writing is not bad. It's just certain parts, certain characters aren't fulfilled right. And to be honest, in some scenes, I could tell that the editing was chopped up quite a bit.
Oh, there's scenes missing left, right, and centre in it. Or there's bits where they've gone, okay, we haven't got time, cut it down.
I think that's where it kind of comes at a disadvantage. Is like there are a friend of mine who loved this movie made the point that this is very much a wide scoping movie, and I think there are elements that are great, but the sum of its parts don't come together as well as should.
I would round it off by saying, look, so far the film's had okay reviews, like 2 to 3 star reviews.
It's had really bad reviews. It's
had decent reviews.
The worst. It's the second worst reviewed Marvel film.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
wow,
not. It's not then in that case.
It is.
No. I'm saying, but I'm saying it's not that bad.
Okay. Eternals is the worst ranked Marvel film,
which isn't that bad.
And then it is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Wow.
There's only 2 films that have been ranked as rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and this is one of them.
I would put this above Black Widow. I'd put it above.
You know what it is? It's just it's a good movie, but because of Infinity War and Endgame, people are expecting so much more from Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's people
haven't got the time for the setup now. They haven't got the time to.
Yeah.
And you said this.
I disagree. I disagree. I think people have time for the setup. What they don't have time is for the exact same fucking film that they've seen 50 times over.
No, yes.
It's the formula of these films. It's all the same. There's nothing.
Well, that's what I said earlier, man. If it feels like you got an AI to write this one.
Which is just awful. It sounds like It sounds like I'm gonna hate it.
I just realized Bill Murray's appearance is not as good as Jeff Goldblum's appearance.
No, and honestly, again, how similar is that to Ragnarok?
Very similar.
That's what I mean.
I think an old established great.
I mean, for you guys, what was the last good Marvel film?
Good. You mean good or great?
How far out? I mean, Endgame was phase 3. We had a whole phase.
Wait, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man was the last great.
That's the last one I was going to say. Spider-Man.
That's number one.
How many films ago was Spider-Man?
About a year.
Yeah, but how many films ago was that?
I don't know, David.
It's quite a few. Yeah.
Maybe 2?
Nah.
Well, you had
2.
Wakanda Forever. You had Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I
quite
enjoyed
Thunder.
Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah.
Love and Thunder, which
I forgot about Wakanda.
I don't mind. It's fine. It's not as good as Ragnarok, but David hates it with a fiery passion.
I don't like the new Thor.
It was
either,
awful.
Honestly.
Yeah, it was god awful.
Oh, you know what I've heard though is a lot of these movies suffered because of the people up at the top. The guy that was taking the
Kevin.
Who's the guy that's in charge of
Kevin
Disney? That
or is this
no even above him?
Oh,
like
Bob
the people
Iger.
in charge of Disney.
Oh yeah, Bob Iger. Yeah.
So I feel like what I heard was a lot of the problems were from him, and now that the other guy came back, what's his name?
Well, Bob Iger's come back. Bob Iger's the guy that's come
back. Bob Iger's the guy before him is the reason why the movies
was a Bob
were so
as well,
bad.
But I can't remember his name.
Fuck you, Bob.
Yes, but from what I've heard though, with Iger coming back, the emphasis is going to be creating better stories because I heard that the previous person in charge wanted to focus more on the shows, which honestly created some great shows. But if you think about it, it was at the expense of the movies.
Yeah, and the shows were all over the shop, weren't they? And again, the linking of stuff together.
I think they're mostly positive. I enjoyed them mostly.
My most hated show was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I liked what he was trying to do.
Yeah. It was
I like the message they were trying to get across was great.
Heavy-handed,
but it was again, it's badly written. And Erin Kellyman as the Flag Smasher bad guy, she was terrible. However, she's awesome in Willow, which we should talk about sometime because the Willow TV show I love. I think it's brilliant.
Oh,
yeah, I'd like to segue into that. But I think rounding off a little bit on here is I would say so far, despite the film being one of the lowest rated Marvel ones, David, it's taken 359 million in less than a week at the box office from a budget of 200 million. Currently, it's doing better than the previous 2 films did at the same point. The last film, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which again I'd probably put that lower than this, easy, because that was just pants largely. It had Lewis. It had Lewis.
All right.
The first Ant-Man cost around 130 million to 170, and it made 500 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was arguably much worse than the first Ant-Man, made 622 million. This one's at 350 million after a week, so this is going to make more.
It's always going to make money, though, isn't it?
Not always.
Marvel have got to really fucking drop the ball to not be profitable on their film.
Oh, well,
Even I'm sure
they'll never not be.
I'm sure Thor even made a lot of money.
Yeah, that was the funny thing. When we did our top 10 films of the year rundown, I looked at what the top 10 most profitable films were, and all the Marvel ones were on it, despite mixed reviews last year. Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness were both on there. The one that surprised me most for being number 2 was bloody Jurassic World Dominion, which generally most people hate.
Yeah, but again, it's,
you know what's
it's
the
an
thing
IP,
we have to
isn't it?
remember
It makes
is-
a lot of money. If you're a strong IP, you're going to make money.
But if you keep making shit films, then gradually the money will start going down on them.
You know what I think we forget though, which I think relates to a lot of movies in general, is kids watch these movies. And movies where kids will make their parents go watch at least a couple times over, they will make money.
And David, this is my point. Friend of the pod, Charlie Gallagher, who guested, he took his girls, he's got daughters, I think they're 9 and 12, took them to see Thor Love and Thunder, and they absolutely loved it. It's their favourite film. And if you look at it through that prism, the film is designed for kids. I mean, literally, the end of the film is a bunch of kids running around with superpowered teddy bears blowing people up. And, yeah, the humour doesn't work as well. And like I said, Ragnarok's one of my favourites. But Love and Thunder is like, eh.
Yeah, but that's not your core audience.
It is. I think kids is.
I think
I
you
think
seem to forget
Marvel was smart enough to know.
You're cool. Well, they're obviously fine.
Explain
to,
Disney,
fine
David.
To,
Explain
fine to
all the Disney
broad.
films that take loads of money.
That's fine to have an audience where there is no there is a wide range of your audience, but that number that you want to hit is your 15-year-olds to your 40-year-olds. You're not in this. You're out of it, mate. You're too old. Your 15 to 40 is the age range where you're.
We won't give away Jose's age on his first.
He looks younger than you, so.
Oh,
He only did. You only did 2 years at sea. I did 7 years. You did 6 months, David. That's why I have a white beard now.
Yes, but I'm going to counter that with the idea that I think it's kind of a proof. When the original prequel Star Wars came out, the first 3, 1, 2, 3, there was, for a couple years, there was just a unanimous opinion that they were not great.
Yeah.
And then when the kids from that era grew up, and you see a lot of social media looking back on those movies,
They love them.
they are a lot kinder than what we originally thought. And I think as a whole, the rest of us were like, well, I guess they weren't that bad. But it's because of the younger generation growing up and convincing us they weren't that bad. And I think that's a kind of what's going to happen with these movies. Is we grew up with the original Iron Man 2. Like, if you look at Iron Man 2, that's not a Disney movie. Obviously very different from what these movies are now.
Yeah.
And I think that Disney effect really did shift the core audience that they're going for. We are that audience as well.
Just about.
But that's not what Disney's aiming for. It's like the comic community grew up, so it's like we want more rough and tough.
Harry Potter's
movies.
a good example, isn't it? Look at the the
Yeah.
books aged, the franchise aged with as the actors did with the fans.
Yes. And I think that's what it is we just got to realize with that understanding that these movies, they're going to be great for adults to a degree.
It's like with the
but
shows
honestly,
as well.
audience-
You're right, man. It's like with the shows. It's like because David didn't like She-Hulk, everyone on the internet started saying he hates women. Literally.
The women thing was you. You keep telling everyone it was me. It was you. It was you hating on Emilia Clarke. That was the problem.
Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke.
She wasn't in that.
No, it
was
was nothing to do with
No.
She-Hulk.
We have a running joke that Emilia Clarke is, she has all her names in Game of Thrones, and one of them was, for us, it was Destroyer of Franchises.
Well, for you,
she was
it
in
was
Solo.
For you, it was
wow.
Destroyer of
For me,
Franchises.
okay.
She seems like the sweetest actress, though.
She seems
trying
like
to
the
get on her good
loveliest
side.
human being on earth. Neil just hates her.
No, I don't hate her. I just think she can only play the one role, and I've not seen her in anything else yet, the way she's been good. But Secret Invasion's coming up, and I hope she's good in it.
All right, Ant-Man and Quantumania. Overall, a fair film, but with its faults. Mostly character development, in my opinion. But I think visually, obviously, like any Marvel movie, Very well done. There were only maybe one or two moments where I was like, "Oh, that's very obvious CG," but I think it was really well done.
How many Jose's out of 10? What are we giving it?
Out of 10, maybe 6.5. 6.5 Jose's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It wasn't great.
it was just fine, perfectly fine.
It was fine.
Didn't make me angry. It didn't like raise the blood pressure. So yeah, for me, it's a fine, perfectly fine film. It lays the groundwork for hopefully, which is what we're going to get, which is much better films
What's
to come.
next up?
And
What's the next one?
the next one, I think, is going to
The Marvels. The Marvels, right?
the Marvels is been moved to November now. So
Oh, wow.
it's
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy is next.
They're surely not going to fuck that up.
No, because it's
That
changed.
should be
No,
brilliant.
there's no way.
Yeah.
That's going to end the trilogy perfectly. That was why it was my number one most anticipated film of the year. And David was shocked because that was that over Dune Part 2. Because I was like, I've just got more emotional investment.
No,
in
that's understandable.
Even more than Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible's number 3.
Oof,
If you check
man,
out our
that's-
last pod, Jose, the one before you came on, you can see our list.
Yes.
Or check it out on our Twitter. So I think that rounds about off for today. However, David, if you're going to the cinema anytime soon, and which the film I'm going to see in 2 days' time, the cinematic event of the year, it's Cocaine Bear.
Oh, I think I might want to watch this too, actually.
Yeah, Cocaine Bear, 2 days' time. Can't wait. As we record this, Cocaine Bear is out in 2 days'
You can
time.
hide your cocaine
Right.
in your beard. Just
David, I keep trying to explain to you. Although, did you see Cineworld's video
Yeah, I
they did
did,
yesterday?
I did.
It
It
was
was good.
amazing. Our big cinema chain in the country, they done a video. It's Pancake Day in England, which is a thing. I don't know if you have it in the States. And it's a video of... I don't know. People make pancakes. I don't even know. We haven't got time to get into it because we're running down the clock on this one. That's an American football term for you. We're running down the clock. So yeah,
Yes.
we there's a very short video of a guy in a bear suit sitting there pouring sugar onto pancakes, and they's like, "Happy Pancake Day, everyone!"
No,
was
I don't
like,
think that
and
was
everyone was
sugar.
like, "Bullshit!" Everyone was like, "Bullshit!" That's Cocaine Bear advertising right there. Right, guys. Well, that's
it.
all the time we got for on this episode today. Remember, if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, which for the majority of you is Spotify and Apple. And follow us at Needed Roads on Twitter and We Needed Roads on Instagram, which you're definitely going to be updating soon, aren't you, David?
I am. Yes. Pancake Day Shrove
Brilliant.
Tuesday as well, by the way. You might have heard of
Okay.
Shrove Tuesday. The day before Ash Wednesday.
There is
Big
not
Christian holiday.
enough time in the podcast
Big
to actually
holiday.
tell me about shrubs or days, David. Say goodbye, David.
Goodbye, David.
Say goodbye, Jose.
Goodbye, Jose.
And we'll see you next time.